Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm meadsyreplays. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to start looking at some of these changes. In the recent update that Wargaming have done. But today we're going to look in particular at the E100. Now, this is, in my opinion, a much needed change for the E100. So basically, the E100 has two guns. It has two guns. One of them was it's one of those guns that if you do a challenge stream, people will challenge you to play the stock gun with the E100. What Wargaming have basically done is buff that. They buffed the standard gun with this, and I do think it's much needed. I don't think there should be a tier 10 with a stock gun. It only happens with, I think there's a couple of tanks with different guns, but when it comes to stock guns, really only the E100. They did have it with the Patton, and they did have it with the IS-4, where basically they had tier 8 guns, and they were absolutely shocking. And Wargaming knew they were shocking, so they got rid of them. However, they left the E100. It was a tier 10 gun, but it was just nowhere near as good enough. It was basically like a mouse gun. It was like a mouse, but probably a lot worse. But Wargaming have now made that gun very good, and I like that. I like tier 10s with different guns, especially something like an E100, because you've got one with a massive alpha, and then you've got one with lower alpha but better DPM. So we're going to look at the gun, really. So the DPM with this gun is 2,777. That is just a 10-second reload. Also, you've got 276 penetration and 327 on your APCR. So, yeah, I mean, it's decent. It's not bad pen for what the gun is. You also have a 460 alpha, so it's not like it's a 400 alpha, it's a 460 alpha. So there are going to be times where you can actually have high rolls just as much as the previous, the other gun. You've got 390, that's only of course if you are shooting AP. 390 on your APCR, and you still have 600 on your HE. Aim time is 3.7, pretty much standard for this kind of gun, and the same as the gun dispersion at 0.344, with of course 7 degrees of gun depression. But honestly, I didn't think this gun was going to be as good as it actually is. Honestly, people underestimate this gun, and rightly so, because people are used to this gun being played and not being very good, or people are used to seeing the E100 with sort of a high alpha gun, but low DPM and sort of a high reload. So you can still catch a few people out, like especially when you shoot them, they then sort of start pushing forward, thinking you've got a sort of 15-16 second reload, and then you've got a 10-second reload, and a bit less if you do run the adrenaline as well. So yeah, you can catch people out, and of course it's always going to be one of those tanks, whereas it is a noob man's tank, as I've said many times. You have to know how to play the E100, and changing the gun is no different. It's still the same. You still play the E100 the exact same way as you would play it with a bigger gun. You've just got better DPM, or you've at least got a better reload. The DPM I don't think is massively different, but you do have that reload. So yeah, it kind of defeats the object of a mouse now. I know, because it does kind of have the same gun, but yeah, it's not a bad tank. Honestly, I love the E100 anyway. Personally, I probably still prefer the E100 with the big gun, but maybe because that is what I'm used to. And honestly, I do love the E100 altogether, but I prefer it with the bigger gun. I do prefer it with the bigger gun, but it doesn't mean that people are now not going to play it with this gun. And even better, if you have only just grinded this tank, of course you do need more XP to get the bigger gun, but at least now if you don't have that XP, you're not having like a really bad grind. At least you can have fun still playing the tank. Yes, maybe not as fun because it doesn't have the high alpha, but you can still have fun playing the tank when it is stock, like with the standard gun. So there will be no need to rush to get the bigger gun. You can just play it as it is, and you can still do damage, you can still be effective, and you can still be dangerous. And that is the thing with the E100. It's a scary looking tank, but when people used to play it with this gun, it really was not scary at all. And anyone that was using this gun, you automatically knew they were a newbie that just didn't know how to play the tank at all. But I'm glad Wargaming have buffed this gun. It is much needed. And as I said, I think there should be more tier 10s out there with the second gun. I know you've got things like the FV4202, which Wargaming have kind of, it's been a hit and miss. They had the Hesh gun, and then they removed the Hesh gun, and then they had the heat gun. Then they sort of reverted it back to the Hesh gun, because not everybody knows how to use the Hesh. So why not give it two guns? Why not give it a gun where you can pick Hesh, and then if you don't like the Hesh, you can run it with heat. I do like the idea of that. I do like the idea of making it different in tier 10, rather than just have to stick with the same gun for every tank. I would like Wargaming to sort of change it up a bit, make them have two guns, make it be completely different. I'm not saying do it with every tank, like the Death Star, you know, running around with a Death Star doing 400 damage, but with 8 seconds reload or something like that. But just some tanks, and I think the E100 does fit in with that. And you know, it would be nice if they did change it up a bit, you know, like auto loaders, for example. Like, just take, for example, a T57 Heavy. Instead of having it as an auto loader, you can choose. Have it as an auto loader, or have it as a single shotgun that does, say, 500 damage, or 460 damage, or whatever. Just to sort of mix it up a little bit, so it's just not the same. Because people might like the tank, but they might not like the gun. But that's just my honest opinion. I wouldn't say change everything. I wouldn't say change the whole of tier 10 to add a second gun. But I don't see any disadvantages of adding a second gun for a few tanks, you know. This gun for the E100 has been around for a long time. Honestly, it's been around forever. But yeah, it was just one of those that you only ever play if you are if you're challenging. You know, if someone's challenging you to play the tank, they would challenge you to use this gun. And that was the same for the pattern, and that was also the same for the IS-4. The IS-4, I mean, they were bad guns because they were just tier 8 guns, and they were very, very poor. So I like the change. I think the change is very, very good. I don't think it makes the tank like better. In overall, it just makes the gun better on the standard gun. So I love the change. Well done, Wargaming, for finally changing the stock gun, as you call it, because it is a disadvantage. You know, you grind any other tier 10 in the game, and you've already got the gun, whereas you grind this tank, you're already at a disadvantage because you've got to then play to get the better gun. And I don't like that. Everyone else is at an advantage where just because I want to grind the E100, I'm at a disadvantage because I've got to freaking grind 60 plus K to get the better gun. So much needed change. Let me know what you think of the change. Again, I think it is absolutely a fantastic change. So hopefully tomorrow, maybe, if I do get time, it might be a little bit later again like today, we will look at the top 5 tanks. The top 5 tanks for the update that has just gone. The best tanks after the update, because some have changed and some have actually got really good. So let me know what you think of the E100 and the stock gun in the comments below. But for now, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.